Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Gravlin back again. You'll probably never get rid of me. It looks like we're heating up. I see that Alex has fired up his video out there at our Nevada judges. If you get tired of me prattling on, please go over to our Nevada judges and watch. He's the only reason why we have coverage at all. He is the best, and Brittany's awesome. They're just cool. But I had to do a stream because I feel like we've been through this together. I got to be here for the reading of the verdict so we can all do this. And so I can read things like Carla Slew. I'm spinning my swivel chair. Hello, everybody. I thought that was a perfect shit. I got my swivel chair. I thought it was my perfect opening right there. So, let's do an intro.
Defense and the defendant himself told you, if only he had said, just don't come back, I don't want to talk to you, that's it, nothing like that, then that would have been it.
I'm all for it, but she's got to work.
There are no clear terms. Get out of the courtroom, don't stalk people, but what does Mr. Blandino do?
All right, well, I'll invite Deborah right now, but she won't show up. I will email an invite to her.
Mr. Blandino is having fun. And if you aren't having fun, you aren't doing it right. So now Mr. Blandino knows he's on the right path. The path that he has set forth upon to see what he can get out of Mr. Federico. So he goes, he files a customer feedback complaint for whatever that's worth, and takes that and attaches it to a letter that he went home immediately and typed. April 25th, 2019.
Let's get me off the screen.
This is the letter that
you guys are more fun than me.
To Michael Federico in his official capacity as a judge pro tempore, as we discussed. The subject line itself indicates what's occurring here. The subject line itself indicates, it might as well say subject, extortion. Desire
that was a great moment.
Desire not to have to file formal complaint with Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline. That's not how this works. If a judge is doing something unethical, they should just be reported. They should be reported. Anybody that's doing something unethical should just be reported. You, or Mr. Blandino, I should say, as a private citizen, anybody in this country doesn't have a right to dangle something over someone's head to say, you were unethical, now I own you? You committed a crime, now you have to do what I say? That is extortion. That is the purpose of this crime. And in this particular letter, Mr. Blandino discusses thoroughly what he'd initially started talking about. In addition to identifying himself as a volunteer investigator for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, not helping the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, he is for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, indicating, I came to your offices to see if we could resolve the complaint without having to use scarce judicial and Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline resources. He indicates that he's done so with other misbehaving judges. And then he goes on, so to avoid having the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline subject the complaint to their protocols, I once again reach out to you to resolve this matter between you and I, or your attorney and I, if you wish to have an intermediary. You remember that whole argument defense counsel had about all Mr. Blandino wanting to do was to sit down with Mr. Federico? April 25th, 2019, he's telling Mr. Federico he doesn't even have to deal with him directly. He can have an intermediary. That's this whole sit down thing. It's not even a real thing. Because if you take a look at Mr. Blandino's words, he didn't care. He wants to see what he can get out of Mr. Federico, whether it's Mr. Federico dealing with him directly or Mr. Federico's intermediary. And then, please know
Absolutely.
that I am very serious about following through to the best of strength that God gives me to do so. He indicates the sacrifice that I spend in time, inconvenience, and discomfort is very small compared to what they suffered to establish freedom and liberty based upon the very principles that God and His Son Jesus would wish for all on this planet to enjoy. The sacrifice that I spend in time, inconvenience, and discomfort, I mean, definitely putting himself out to be a martyr. But if you aren't doing it, if you aren't having fun, you aren't doing it right. Doing it because he's having fun. And then it goes further. In that April 25th, 2019 letter, it wasn't just about.
Oh, thank you,
I'm
Connie.
Sorry, I gotta stop. He's not supposed to be
You guys are
like
too
this.
sweet.
Stop. He's trying to tell me.
Stop.
No, I would ask, can you invite Mr. Dickerson to not approach the table? I'm sorry.
Okay.
If he can
Hey.
stay.
He's trying to talk
Stop,
me, Judge,
Stop talking.
purposely. He knows he's trying to talk me.
Stop.
This is
He's
improper,
allowed.
and I'm making a bar
Lawyers
complaint
are
against you.
permitted
Quiet.
to
I'm making a
walk
bar
around the
complaint
well.
against you, Mr. Dickerson. I will get these jabs,
No,
and I will make a bar complaint against you.
Mr. Blandino, stop.
If I would have done this, you would have told me immediately not to do that.
Completely and totally inappropriate.
It's inappropriate for him to come here multiple times, and you know that, Judge.
He's in the well. He is permitted to walk around the well.
You would not let me do that if I were representing myself.
stop.
If I were going over to the prosecution.
I'm sorry. Look, I was just asking, Your Honor,
Okay,
you give
we're
me,
gonna
if he
take a
doesn't,
recess. During this recess,
I
you're
can
asked
see.
not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication, or social media, read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case, or do research, such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials, maybe Blandino, it is completely and totally inappropriate for you to lash out and scream at the prosecutor while he's doing his closing argument. Totally inappropriate. If you don't like something, tell your
I told my
attorney,
attorney 3
And
times
he
that
will
he cannot do that, and he should
and
have
he
kept.
will raise it with the court,
He did not,
okay?
and I had
He's
to
in
raise it,
the
Judge.
well. He can walk around in the well if he wants to.
When
Okay,
I had
I'm
my,
not
stu-
sure
when I had my
why.
trial in the 1990s, I tried to walk around and Judge Moppin, he said, you can't walk around, you gotta stand at the table. And you wouldn't have, if I were representing myself, you would not allow me to go over to the prosecution table. I know that for a fact, and if you're in your heart, you have to get the truth,
Stop
you'd say that's
pointing at
true.
me.
You know that's
Stop
true.
shouting at me.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bit heated, I
No,
apologize.
you're completely and totally out of control. It's not
No.
heated. It is completely and totally out of control. Okay, I'd like to bring the jury back in so Mr. Dickerson can conclude his closing.
If he
Can
would,
you control yourself? Because if not, I'll just
I
remove you
will,
from the
I will,
courtroom.
I'm sorry, I apologize, but if he can agree not to come over here.
No,
to the
he
table-
doesn't have to agree with you about
He said he
anything.
would just a minute ago.
He doesn't have to agree with you about anything. If you can't control yourself, you will be taken out of the courtroom
Okay, I
so that the
apologize.
prosecutor can conclude
I
with his
apologize.
closing.
I apologize.
Can
I'm
you
sorry.
control yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, if I just may, he's saying that I wouldn't make the objection. The third time he came over, he said, you know, I don't know what he did, he was turning or whatever to Mr. Dickerson, asked me to say, you asked him not to come over here, I was going to object or ask Your Honor to have him not approach the defense table because he can't seem to control himself, and he was turning. So I was not, and then he just started looking. So I was intending to ask Your Honor if he could not approach the defense table when this was
I've never
whatever
seen
this
anything.
was happening.
I've never seen anything like this. This is just completely and totally inappropriate. He's in the well. I mean, you can't control
Why wasn't I
yourself
told about that?
because the district attorney is walking around giving his closing argument.
Why is he getting that close to the table,
Like I
Judge?
said, if you cannot control yourself, you will be taken out of the courtroom so Mr. Dickerson can conclude. Do you understand what's gonna happen? You can't scream at people in the courtroom.
That's my normal voice.
It's screaming.
I can't whisper,
Okay, that's a normal voice right there.
yeah, I'm kind of.
Okay, when you start screaming at people in the middle of their closing argument, it's totally inappropriate. You realize the jury just saw what you did?
I know they saw that.
That's not good for you. I'm just here to tell
I
you.
know that.
That is not good for you.
That's why he was taunting me.
So-
He wanted a reaction. He wanted a
So
reaction.
Mr.
and he got it.
Dickerson owns you? Okay.
No, he
So
wanted
his
to do it.
behavior dictates how you
That
behave.
was taunting.
Okay,
That was
he was
taunting.
not taunting you. That is ridiculous.
No, it is
Can
not.
you control yourself so I can bring the
Yes, I
jury
can.
back in?
I can.
Okay, have a seat.
Thank you.
You can bring the jury back in.
I think Mr. Dayton,
Stop talking. Like, I'm not kidding. I will have you removed.
I know you're not kidding, Judge.
Okay?
Shut up, huh? Now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. No, absolutely. You can't beat it. Someone convicting themselves. It really makes the job easier. Thank you, Jill. Okay, we do have a serious issue to address here. Namely, Kim Blandino keeps showing up in the comments and occasionally super chatting. I don't care. It's funny either way, but I do have to know. Tell me in the chat. Is that a sock puppet, or is that actually Kim Blandino mid-trial participating in the stream? I've got to know.
I mean, I understand what Dickerson said, that is to establish his intent behind it, but I feel like it's asking a bit too much. I would probably object on relevance plus potential character grounds.
Low, but there were some real fireworks during the rebuttal argument. Mr. Blandino's the defendant in the case, got upset by the prosecutor's argument, and it really is very interesting. So I just clipped that portion out of there. And
I want to thank Brittany and Alex Falcone of Our Nevada Judges for their excellent video coverage of this case and many others. Welcome to episode 98 for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. Blandino lost control and lashed out at Dickerson and threatened the prosecutor in front of the jury. I have to compliment Clark County Deputy District Attorneys Melanie Marlin and Michael Dickerson, who represented the state. In my opinion, they presented a solid case throughout the 5-day trial, and the closing argument by Prosecutor Marlin was top-notch, as was the rebuttal argument by Prosecutor Dickerson.
When he doesn't get a response back from Mr. Federico, and he ramps it up to the next level, he makes good on his threat. He makes good on his threat to expose Mr. Federico to disgrace by actually sending everything that he's already sent to the managing board of directors of his firm, all of his bosses. And what did Mr. Federico tell you about that? It was humiliating. It was humiliating. That's it. Mr. Blandino has committed extortion so many different ways in this case. Not just one. There's not just one avenue of extortion here. And it begins with Mr. Blandino. It begins right there in the note that he wrote. April 8th, 2019. I am ready to begin filing my complaints against you, indicating that it's for his courtroom activities, including within the next 10 days, indicating how serious he is, because he's been effective. He's been effective because his last 2 letters have resulted in letters of caution. So please don't take this matter lightly. This note doesn't say, hey, I just want to sit down and I want an apology, Mr. Federico. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say, hey, I'm going to file a complaint against you regardless, but I'd love an apology. It doesn't say that. What it says is I'm going to file a complaint, or we can negotiate.
Oh, he'll file an appeal if he gets convicted.
There. Then,
but it won't be fun. It's not a jury trial.
When he doesn't hear anything from Mr. Federico, he goes to the Regional Justice Center. He told you that he was all around that day. He was all around. Yet somehow he walks into the courtroom still carrying his tray of stuff with his shoes untied from walking through security. And he told you that before he ever got into that courtroom, he looked right into it. You could see Mr. Federico right there on the bench. Okay. Now,
we're gonna get Herbert into this.
He sits down. He gets kicked out. Mr. Federico, in no unclear terms, in his capacity as a judge, in that moment, says,
I need sleep.
You need to leave because you came to my private law office. Don't stop me. Defense.
We go from Herbert
and
to Slim Shady. It's all good. It's all good.
Only he had said,
Thank you.
Don't come back. I don't want to talk to you. That's it. Nothing like that. Then that would have been it. There are no clear terms. Get out of the courtroom, don't stalk people. But what does Mr. Blandino do?
Now we're taking the Bob Ross angle.
Well, now he's getting the reaction he wants. Now, Mr. Blandino is having fun.
Dickerson's having fun.
And if you aren't having fun, you aren't doing it right. So now, Mr. Blandino knows he's on the right path. The path that he has set
Thank you,
forth
Ron.
upon to see what he can get out of Mr. Federico. So he goes, he files a customer feedback complaint for whatever that's
I
worth.
should have known better. Thank you,
and
old dog.
Takes that and attaches it to a letter that he went home immediately and typed. April 25th, 2019, this letter. This is the letter that, once again, to
I hope we don't get a
Federico,
verdict. This
in
is
his
too
official
fun.
Capacity as a judge pro tempore, as we discussed. The subject line itself indicates what's occurring here. The subject line itself indicates, I mean, it might as well say subject, extortion. Desire not to have to file formal complaint with Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline. That's not how this works. If a judge is does something unethical, they should just be reported. They should be reported. Anybody that's doing something unethical should just be reported. You, or Mr. Blandino, I should say, as a private citizen, anybody in this country doesn't have a right to dangle something over someone's head.
And they deserve it too.
Say, you were unethical. Now
Thank
I own
you.
you. You committed a crime. Now you have to do what I say. That is extortion. That is the purpose of this crime. And in this particular letter, Mr. Blandino discusses thoroughly
Thank you, Janet.
what he'd initially started talking about. In addition to identifying himself as a volunteer investigator for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, not helping the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, he is for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, indicating, I came to your offices to see if we could resolve the complaint without having to use scarce judicial and Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline resources. He indicates that he's done so with other misbehaving judges.
Oh, that's too good.
And then
Thank
he
you,
goes on.
Alexandra.
So to avoid having the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline subject the complaint to their protocols, I once again reach out to you to resolve this matter between you and I, or your attorney and I, if you wish
Thank
to
you,
have an
Peter.
intermediary. You remember that whole argument defense counsel had about all Mr. Blandino wanting to do was to sit down with Mr. Federico? April 25th, 2019, he's telling Mr. Federico he doesn't even have to deal with him directly. He can have an intermediary. That's this whole sit-down thing, it's not even a real thing. Because you take a look at Mr. Blandino's words, he didn't care. He wants to see what he can get out of Mr. Federico, whether it's Mr. Federico dealing with him directly or Mr. Federico's intermediary. And then, please know that I am very serious about following through to the best of strength.
A few minutes
God
away
gives me.
from finishing rebuttal. Judge is thinking he's getting convicted and doesn't want to give him a grounds for appeal.
He indicates
That's the way I read it.
the sacrifice that I spend in time, inconvenience, and discomfort is very small compared to what they suffered to establish freedom and liberty based upon the very principles that God and His Son Jesus would wish for all on this planet to enjoy. The sacrifice that I spend in time, inconvenience, and discomfort I mean, definitely putting himself out to be a martyr. But if you aren't doing it, if you aren't having fun, you aren't doing it right. doing it because he's having fun. And then it goes further. In that April 25th, 2019 letter, it wasn't just about this
I'm
alleged.
sorry, I gotta
Stop,
He's
stop, stop.
he's not supposed to be like this. He's
No, I
trying
would
to
ask-
calm me.
Stop.
He's trying to calm me, Judge.
Stop.
Blandino.
No, I would ask, can you mind Mr. Dickerson to not approach the table? I'm sorry.
Okay.
If he can
Hey,
stay.
He's trying to calm
Stop,
me, Judge,
Stop talking.
purposely. He knows he's trying to calm me.
Stop.
This is
Well,
improper, and I'm making a bar
Lawyers
complaint
are
against you.
permitted.
What?
I'm making a
Walk
bar
around the
complaint
well.
against you, Mr. Dickerson. I will get these jabs,
No,
and I will make a bar complaint against you.
Mr. Blandino, stop.
If I would have done this, you would have told me immediately not to do that.
Completely and totally inappropriate.
It's inappropriate for him to come here multiple times, and you know that, Judge.
He's in the well. He is permitted to walk around the well.
You would not let me do that if I were representing myself.
stop.
If I were going over to the prosecution.
I'm sorry. Look, I was just asking, Your Honor,
Okay,
you can
we're
be,
gonna
if he
take a
doesn't,
recess.
I-
During this recess,
I
you're
can
asked
stay.
not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication, or social media, read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case, you may research, such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials, maybe you know it is completely and totally inappropriate for you to lash out and scream at the prosecutor while he's doing his closing argument.
Stop it, Wendy.
Totally inappropriate. If you don't like something, tell
I
your
told my
attorney,
attorney 3
It's
not
times,
funny.
that he cannot do that, he
and
should have
you will
kept.
raise it with the court,
He did not,
okay?
and I had
He's
to
in
raise it.
the
Judge.
well. He can walk around in the well if he wants to.
When I
Okay?
had
I'm
my,
not
stu-
sure
when I had my
why.
trial in the 1990s, I tried to walk around and Judge Moppin, he said, you can't walk around, you gotta stand at the table. And you wouldn't have, if I were representing myself, you would not allow me to go over to the prosecution table. I know that for a fact, and if you're in your heart, you ask
Stop.
the truth,
Stop
you'd say that's
pointing at
true.
me.
You know that's
Stop
true.
shouting at me.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bit heated, I
No, you're
apologize.
completely and totally out of control. It's not
No.
heated. It is completely and totally out of control. Okay, I'd like to bring the jury back in so Mr. Dickerson can conclude his closing.
If he
Can
would,
you control yourself? Because if not, I'll just
I
remove you
will,
from
I
the
will,
courtroom.
I'm sorry, I apologize, but if he can agree not to come over here to
No,
the
he
table.
doesn't have to agree with you about
He said he
anything.
would just a minute ago.
He doesn't have to agree with you about anything. If you can't control yourself, you will be taken out of the
Okay,
courtroom
I
so that the
apologize.
prosecutor can conclude
I
with his
apologize.
closing.
I apologize.
Can
I'm
you
sorry.
control yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, if I just may, he's saying. that I
That's a
wouldn't
good
make
question.
The third time he came over, he said, you know.
I honestly don't know the answer, and I wondered the same thing. Would they proceed to sentencing immediately, and would he be taken into custody?
Going to object or ask Your Honor to have him not approach the defense table.
I wish I had something more intelligent to say, but all I can say is I share your question.
So I was not, and then he just started looking. So I was intending to ask Your Honor if he could not approach.
Thank you, Tones. I don't remember specifically Airplane 2, but just the Sonny Bono, like the Sonny Bono and the era. Yeah, it works for me. Thank you, Stacy. I hope the volume's working better for you.
Sure, go ahead and be seated when you get to your turn. Thank you, sir.
Sure is. Thank you, Judy.
Order is now in session.
Does the state stipulate to the presence of the jury panel
We do, Your Honor.
and the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Mr. Romero, have you been selected to be foreperson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will you please hand the verdict form to Officer Hawks?
Well, this is happening.
Okay, the clerk will now read the verdict out loud. If the defendant and his attorney will please stand for reading of the verdict.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada, State of Nevada, plaintiff versus Kim Dennis Blandino, defendant, case number C341767, Department number 12, verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Kim Dennis Blandino, as follows. Count 1, extortion, guilty of extortion. Count 2, impersonation of an officer, guilty of impersonation of an officer. Dated this 9th day of March 2022, signed by foreperson Anthony Romero. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict is read, so say you one, so say you all?
Okay, does either side
Wow.
have the jury panel polled? Mr.
Guilty on both.
Mr. Bateman?
I don't normally do this, but yes, Judge, I'll ask you.
Absolutely. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the clerk is going to ask you a question, and I just have to respond yes or no.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 2, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 3, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 5, is this your verdict is read?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's going to be Miss Susan, or I don't want to say your name. Thank you. Juror number 6, William Luke, excuse me, is this your verdict is read?
Yeah.
Juror number 7, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 10, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your verdict is read?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, the clerk will record the verdict in the official record of the court. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, you can have a seat. I am going to discharge you from your duty as jurors. You are no longer under the admonition not to discuss this case with anyone. You're free to discuss it with whomever you want. However, you're under no obligation to discuss it with anyone. I am going to excuse you to go back in the jury deliberation room where you will get further instructions. And then you will be excused to go. I do always like to give the attorneys for both sides the opportunity to talk to the jury panel, but only if you want to. Both sides do try cases a lot in this courthouse, and I do think it's good for them to speak to a jury panel afterwards to see what you liked and didn't like. I think it makes them better trial attorneys. However, it's completely up to you whether you want to talk to either side. But before I do excuse you, I just want to extend my gratitude to you for your willingness to be here. Especially, we went a couple extra days than what I had told you, and I want to thank you very much. You were very courteous, you were very professional, and I really appreciate it. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, you are discharged as jurors.
Thank you. All rise for the next jury. Jurors, if you'll please go with Ms. Osterman.
Wow. It's also interesting to me. It's exactly like Illinois. I mean, I guess it didn't expect any difference, but that's exactly how trials I've participated in end.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Okay, the record will reflect that the hearing is taking place outside the presence of the jury panel. Mr. Dickerson, do you want to be heard?
We would like to be heard, Your Honor. At this point in time, the presumption of innocence is gone. Mr. Blandino has been found guilty by a jury of peers. He is no longer entitled to bail. We would ask that he be remanded today on these charges awaiting sentencing.
And Your Honor, we would ask that you allow him to remain on his bail and allow him to on his bail and his his ankle bracelet, electronic monitor. He is local here to Las Vegas. He is not a flight risk. He is the caretaker for Ms. Pendergraft, who is present in the courtroom here today. I think that he certainly needs an opportunity if he, awaiting sentencing, to be prepared and to have any affairs in order that would need to be in order for a sentencing date. But again, he is not a flight risk. He has been, I don't know that he has had any issues on being on the electronic monitoring. I believe that he is on medium level. If Your Honor would feel more comfortable, perhaps putting him on the high level electronic monitoring, and that he would be here. He's not going to miss any court date. And like I said, he's not a flight risk. He wants to come to court. Mr. Dickerson alluded that this is fun for him. And so I don't know what else to say. He's not a flight risk. He's not going to miss any court. He has been and on the electronic monitoring. Know where he's at. He's not any threat or danger to the community. He hasn't been for the 2.5 years that he's been on.
If I may.
Yes, he wanted, I did forget, he did have the 2-week absence in December where he went, you allowed him to travel to his son's graduation, and he was off the ankle bracelet. No issues coming back on the electronic monitoring ankle bracelet. So I think all that demonstrates that he is an income candidate to remain on his electronic monitoring and will be here at any future court dates.
The state of Nevada has to disagree. We have to disagree about him being in a position at this point in time where he wants to come back to court, him being in a position where he's still having fun. Mr. Blandino is no longer having fun. Mr. Blandino is no longer in control of the situation. We've seen throughout this case what Mr. Blandino does when he's not in control or he feels like he's losing control. He obstructs, he refuses to cooperate, including when he was ordered to get tested, psychological testing through Lakes Crossings, before Lakes Crossing for that matter, Your Honor, by this court. He refused to cooperate with that. He then was forced to be remanded and sent to have those evaluations done because of his obstruction and refusal. Then throughout this case, off the top of my head, I believe it's 22 motions to disqualify the courts that were solely for the purpose of obstructing and harassing these proceedings whenever he was feeling like he was no longer in control of things weren't going his way. It's clear. Today, he's been found guilty. Things are no longer going his way. He should be remanded. He is a danger to the community in the fact that we've seen his behavior here in court. We've seen his disrespect for the law. Mr. Blandino does not respect the letter of the law at all. He doesn't respect court orders. He's violated this court's orders in the past. He's violated past court orders, even indicating in some paperwork that he was going to go do surveillance at the named victim's residence in this case. That is incredibly concerning to the state. I would also note that he is a convicted felon. In that particular case, which is also a concern, he fled the state of Nevada with his children that he kidnapped, changed their names, told them that their mother had spiritual cancer and that she died. This is an individual who has extreme issues. He needs to be remanded pending sentencing, and I think that the state of Nevada will be in a good position to also, at some point in time, request some litigation regarding evaluations prior to sentencing as to his mental state and what should be happening with him at the time of sentencing.
If I may speak to the
Oh no, he's trying to talk.
as to the, I would stand by counsel at that point. That was in the competency court. Honestly, there was a discrepancy and a misunderstanding as to whether the appointment had to be set or the evaluation had to be done by the date certain. Mr. Blandino is not well liked. He does not get the benefit of the doubt. I'm not a witness, but he did set the appointment. He did not have it. As far as disobeying the orders for his evaluations. This was in December around the holidays. He was not when that happened. So I don't think that is
No.
what happened, that he was willfully disobeying those orders to be
Not at all.
to be evaluated. So it was difficult.
But thank you.
Appointments. He did set appointments, and so as far as that is concerned, I don't think that should be counted against Mr. Blandino for disobeying the court. We heard testimony, Judge, from the detective after doing the search warrant that there was nothing that indicated he was a threat or a danger that led to additional charges and all those papers and all those files or anything like that, that Mr. Blandino was a threat. So I think he, if he's on the high-level electronic monitoring program and he's on bail, so he's got he's got the.
Thank you, Tombo Brumbley. That was very generous.
Program. He's got, private bail company with their bounty hunters. He is not a flight risk. He is not a danger. The high-level monitoring, I mean, they have strict curfews. They have strict rules about when he can go and where he can go. Since he doesn't, I don't think he has he doesn't have a 9-to-5 job, I'm trying to say, so he can't really go anywhere during the day. And also, as far as filing, obviously he's a vexatious litigant. He can't file. When I was standby counsel, my understanding of my role was that, he was the attorney and I filed these things. Obviously, I've said it before. Clearly, I filed things as standby counsel that I would never file as an attorney. So I don't think that that's an issue of him filing anything here with the court. So because that would go through me, I will not file anything that would be. I can't imagine anything that I would need to file, but certainly none of the sorts of things like along the lines of what was filed, the motions to disqualify, any of those things. I will not file that. Or anything like it. So I don't think that's a concern either.
I would note one thing regarding it being brought up that the detective testified there's nothing of concern around here in the search warrant. The detective clearly didn't want to get into all the other things that have been found during the investigation, which could be unduly prejudicial. That includes the fact that Mr. Blandino, even after he was charged in this case, continued this same behavior, including to the Justice Court Pro Tem judge, Leo Williams, who sat on his case in this same case in Justice Court before he was indicted, where later on, after his indictment, he sent her the letter that we discussed in the hearing outside the presence of the jury in November of 2019, indicating that she needed to recuse herself from a civil case that was before the Justice Court that he believed that she was a judge of, and that if she didn't recuse herself,
thank you, Carrie.
Complaints against her with the
I definitely will.
Discipline. That letter too, he took up to her private law office and dropped it off.
Very
His
sweet.
criminal behavior has continued, Your Honor, and it's time to put it to an end.
Was he a party to the civil action?
He believed that he could be an intervener in it, but at the time he was not.
So he was not a party.
He was not a party.
I'm not. I guess I can't speak to that civil matter. I'm not able to speak to that. I don't know about it.
Can I say anything?
No.
Okay.
No, you're represented by counsel. So at this time, I'm going to allow him to stay at liberty pending sentencing. His monitoring will be raised to high level electronic monitoring. All of your conditions will remain the same. So you understand you're not permitted to have any contact with the victims in this matter.
Correct.
And you're not permitted to send any letters of the kind that you, in this underlying matter.
Can
You
I continue to
understand that?
file complaints to the commission on judicial discipline though? And they'll do the ordinary course?
You've
I would
got
ask
to be
that
kidding
anything
me.
that he's going to file, any complaints or anything like that should go through his attorney, Your Honor. At this point in time, we know that he's
That's a
using.
very good idea.
So I send them to him and then he clears it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, and then you won't have any issues, because if you have any issues pending sentencing, you will be remanded pending sentencing.
Okay, understood.
Do you have any questions about what your conditions are?
Stay away from Nordstrom, stay away from Federico. No filing commission on judicial discipline for complaints except for him. Now, I do
No
want,
sending people
okay,
letters.
now one thing I do have, I tried to file, or serve Mr. Federico, and my son tried to. I gave it to legal wings this morning because I didn't know if I was gonna rename it. So a third party will be serving Federico at a federal civil rights suit. And as you know, we're supposed to try and negotiate, or try to resolve it without going through the trial, so.
You've got
how
to
do
be
I handle
kidding me.
that?
Have any contact with Mr. Federico.
Well, how do I handle that at the federal court?
Do not have any contact with Mr. Federico.
So I have to.
Okay,
So
I mean, I
even-
just wanna make sure, I don't care what litigation you have going on, you get an attorney, you get somebody
So if I
else.
get an
to have
attorney
your
and contact through the attorney, it's okay.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
You cannot have any direct contact. He clearly does not wanna have any contact with you.
Well, yeah, but I'm allowed to file federal civil rights suit, and that's what I
You
did.
sure?
So with that, we would also request, since you're going to be leaving Mr. Blandino out of custody, we request an overall order that he not be at the RJC or the property of the RJC unless
Stop
he's
it.
here for a case where he is a party for an actual court appearance during that time. We also wanted specifically that he not come to any of the offices of the Clark County
Thank
District
you.
Attorney's Office. During the course of this case, it's come to my attention that Mr. Blandino has visited our reception at the Clark County District Attorney's Office, caused the women working there to feel very uncomfortable, started yelling at people in the lobby or harassing people in the lobby about wearing, as he calls them, diapers
He's
on
still
their face
arguing.
because they're wearing masks. It's something that is of concern to
Unbelievable.
our office, and our investigators are aware of it. He is not allowed at the district attorney's office as far as we're concerned, and I've told him that he's trespassed.
Okay, do you understand that? You are not permitted to come to the RJC for
Yes.
any reason.
OMG is right.
Unless you have a proceeding here where you are the party.
Now, does that
Do you
include
understand
if I go to the clerk's office because the computers are down to file something or that, how do I do that? I have to mail it.
You're just trying to talk me out and let me stay at
We got
home.
adjourned. Long as
Fine.
Kim now.
I mean, I literally feel like you're trying to talk me out of allowing you to stay at liberty.
Okay, no, I.
Yes.
Yeah. Just some clarification, with whom do I, if he has a complaint that he sends to me, with whom am I supposed to clear that? With Your Honor, with Mr. Dickerson? I just want a little.
No, you use your discretion.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you're an attorney. you're
Yes,
an
okay, I
officer
just
of court.
want to make sure that that's what.
Fine, Ben. We trust you.
Absolutely. So the very-
Your
So
discretion
now
is
you refer
fine.
to Pro and probation. You understand you're gonna be required to go to pro and probation. You're gonna be required to participate in an interview. Do not let that report come back to me saying you refuse to participate.
What do you mean for the PSI report?
That's
But
correct.
I go to the jail for the upgrade on the high level
That is
though.
correct.
So it's two separate things.
So Ben is not free.
Okay.
He's supposed to monitor him
Again, I
now,
just wanna
at
make
least till
sure
sentencing.
You understand you have to go to pro and
You
probation.
have a report date for me?
I have paperwork for you.
Okay.
My suggestion is you go within the next 48 hours.
Oh, that's no problem there.
So that they can make sure they get it done, the interview, and prepare the report and get it to the board on time.
Yeah, do I have to make an appointment with them or can I just drop in? I don't know.
You're gonna be given paperwork. just-
Oh, okay.
I
Let the
believe you
judge
can
finish.
just report to PNP. I don't think you have to make an appointment. Okay?
Sentencing is going to be July 7th at 8:30. If we're still on pandemic schedule, that will be at 12 p.m. And Marshall, here's paperwork to be placed on high level.
Is that sentencing July 7th? Is that what they just said?
Oh,
I'm
and
sorry, Madam Clerk, what was it, July 7th?
July 7th at 8:30. If we're still on pandemic schedule, that'll be at 12 p.m.
One thing slipped my mind, and it's the fact that the municipal court, which has been the target of much of Mr. Blandino's ire, has now moved to a different building. And so we would also request that the stay away order include the municipal court, unless he has the same thing, a case that is on calendar that day, that'd be cool.
I don't perceive that's out of line.
Okay, so I'm gonna include, I mean, because the Las Vegas Municipal Court, they used to be in this building, now they have their own. So you understand you can't go into that building
Okay, yes.
unless you have a case on calendar wherein you are the party. Do you
Yes.
understand that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
This might be premature, but I just want to say that or to put the defendant on notice. I do not do appeals. I do not do appellate work. Mr. Blandino has filed things alleging and about my ineffectiveness, and so obviously I'm sure that would, if an appeal were to come of this, that would be an issue, and I will not be handling that appeal. Mr. Blandino, quite frankly, probably has more experience with appeals than I do. But I would like to put on notice now, I will not be handling an appeal. I will not filing any notice of appeals on his behalf.
Okay, so it sounds like Mr. Bateman's gonna ask to withdraw as your attorney of record after your sentencing.
Right.
So you understand you have 30 days to file a notice of appeal?
Well, after a judgment of conviction with sentence, I can't appeal, but that's just,
That's correct.
right.
That is correct.
Although they allow a early thing.
So if you want Mr. Bateman to help you with the notice of appeal, he may, but I'm assuming you're gonna want to represent yourself on appeal.
Well, they're under Blandino versus State, which is named after me.
Is that a yes? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay,
Yeah.
anything else?
Thank you, Judge.
No, you're
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you. Court is now in recess.
Wow. That was absolutely wild. I don't know. Are y'all still here? I can't believe it. I'm not surprised there was a guilty verdict. They came back fast. There was not a bunch of problems for the jury there. Came back guilty on both things. But Kim has not learned a damn thing. He wanted to fight about it afterwards. I'm also surprised she didn't take him right into custody, but not completely surprised. And I don't think it's a horrible decision in this sense. He's there with a leg monitor on. She upped his monitoring. They know where he is. He does not strike me as a threat to society generally. He strikes me as a nuisance to society, but not a threat to society. They know where he is. They have monitoring on him. I don't think he's going to do anything in the meantime. Doesn't mean we're doing that. But she hasn't decided. You know, the sentencing is complicated in this case because we've got credit for time served, and we've got two things here. Before you decide on a sentence, you want a pre-sentence investigation. You want to look at all the priors. You want to look at you know what he was convicted of here. Credit out what he has. Look at the whole circumstance. So if that nets out to not much time in jail, you know, if they're looking at a sentencing in July, you know, that's a long time from now. I don't know why they set it out so far, but they did. They did. I'm not used to it. Again, I don't do criminal, so that I would think that the sentencing would happen sooner than that, but I have no reason. That's just my gut feeling. It just surprised me that there's that gap of time, but they do have a good tether on him. They know where he is. He's got ankle monitoring. He is now convicted of two things. He can't file anything. Ben was cracking me up. He's like, well, you know, I'm not going to help him with the appeal. Well, yeah, part of that appeal is going to be ineffective counsel, which is nonsense. Ben did what he could. He did a fine job. It's not going to go anywhere, but since he's going to be a basis for the appeal, he couldn't handle it anyway. I seen this only from doing YouTube again because I don't do this, but it appears that's usually the term of for these attorneys is that they pretty much have to stick with them through sentencing. He's just saying right now, I don't want to hear it from him at sentencing. I get it. I'm in there. I'll argue that. I'll tell him to shut up and not do anything for elocution because he'll screw things up worse. and I'll handle sentencing. I'll look through the guidelines, all that. That's what I'm used to. But I'm not doing an appeal. I want it known now. So that makes a lot of sense. But I couldn't believe Kim sitting there looking for clarification on what complaints he can file right now. He was just convicted on 2 counts. And he is undaunted. He wants to file some complaints right now. It's unbelievable. All right, I'm going to run through there. I just have a few more super chats. First of all, thank you all. You've all been so generous and everything. This was so fun doing this with you guys. I was worried about it because it wasn't that. I thought, well, they'll just come out and read it and that's that. But it wasn't. It was more interesting than that when Kim started talking. In fact, he was trying to talk earlier. The judge said exactly what I was thinking, which is I think you're trying to talk me into not letting you go. I mean, it's a close call, another judge would have said, nah, I've had enough. We're going to take you into custody right now, especially if the sentencing was shorter. I could see that you want 30 days to prepare a report. But I as a judge, I could say, I'm comfortable that I'm comfortable with whatever time he's already done, but tacking 30 days onto that minimum for sentencing purposes. So if I show up at sentencing and want to give him time served, it wouldn't make me lose any sleep at night that if he spent another month in jail, given the fact that he was just convicted of a felony and not his first felony. So I could have gone that way. But if you told me, no, the sentencing has to be out in July, I'd probably do the same thing this judge did. Of course, she set the sentencing date. So, whatever. I think overall the judge did a great job. I think the attorneys did a fine job. I think Ben did a fine job of advocating for his client there yet again. Not that he appreciates it, but I couldn't believe it. The complaints, and then he's filing a federal lawsuit against Federico. Federico hasn't done anything wrong. That is so crazy. He's classified as a vexatious litigant. That probably doesn't apply to federal court. That's probably a state court scenario. So he sits around and thinks about this stuff all day. So that's probably the only avenue open to him. It's going nowhere. I've been watching hours of this stuff, and I haven't seen Federico do anything remotely wrong except make the obvious finding, the 2-inch putt finding, that Kim was guilty of a traffic citation that any other judge would have found. That's it. And also, he said, "Get out of my courtroom." Another judge might have said, "I'll just let him sit there." Judge said, "Get out of my courtroom." But it wasn't even rude about it, and certainly within his discretion. So, oh, wow. Thank you guys all so much. It's been so much fun. I'm going to take a nap. I did not plan appropriately. I did not have beverages for this. I thought today was the last 3 days. I thought everything would take half what it did, and I should know better. I'm an attorney, but I don't know. It's just the optimism in me. But as it turns out, it's been so much fun. I've had so much fun reading the chat and everything. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Martin Downs. Oh, the dance. Oh, I am going to do that too. I am. This is for my true law nerds here. You guys hung long with me, but I do have a lot of people in the comments, and that's okay too. I'm doing a brief overview. It'll be like 15 minutes long or whatever. Here's the trial from opening argument to verdict. And I'm going to put that video together, and then I'm never going to think about this again. Let us never speak of this again until he does something else, because he will. Now, I'm already taking that back. If that thing's set for July 7th, as long as I don't have a conflict, I will probably do a stream on July 7th for the Blandino sentencing. I can't imagine I wouldn't. I've got issues. I will. I will do that. All right. Thank you. Oh, wait. No. Oh, Lord. Oh, he thinks he's going to spread his knowledge in jail. I'll bet you he does. And in jail, there will be people who will buy it. There really will. Oh, he might go full soft sit. I had a big discussion with him about how he's not a soft sit, and he really didn't pull that during this trial. But that's the next logical step. I will say he hasn't crossed that line yet, but he could get there. There's a federal vexatious litigant provision. Yeah, I'm sure, but there's a process to go through to get named a vexatious litigant. And my guess is all of his prior activity was in state court, so that's where he has that designation. It won't take him long to get it in federal court either. But for now, he's sitting there saying, "How can I serve?" I thought that was fascinating too. He's saying my son was going to serve, so the son's on board with this. Everyone in the chat, and I understand this, but everyone in the chat's, oh, I feel sorry for his family or whatever. Well, I don't even know if what Kim is saying correct, but his son is supposedly trying to serve this guy with this federal lawsuit. So that, I mean, that to me makes it sound like the son's supportive of his activity, which is shocking. But I don't know his son. Vanguard 99.99. Thank you guys so much. I don't know what you're thanking me for. You guys are the fun ones, but I really, really appreciate it. I do actually have to get back to practicing law at some point, though. I really do, like tomorrow. Like tomorrow I have to. But thank you. That is so kind. The dance is the bomb. The dance is good, and again, I'm putting it in my video, but I'm just poaching it from him. Squishy Old Gardener, go check out his Kim Blandino testimony remix. It's fabulous. It's short. It's beautiful. Blatz 802, thank you. Well, thank you. This has been one heck of a. I never thought I would be doing anything like this. This is like the strangest thing, but it's been so fun. Jen Wick, $4.99. Thank you so much. I just don't want to miss anybody. All right, I think that's it. Have a great night. I appreciate it. I will be talking with you all soon.